Hello everyone, and today we're back for another Loomian Legacy video. Today, I will be trying something a little different. Instead of showcasing a Loomian and showing what it does in battle, I will instead talk about a genius strategy that has won someone a tournament. This strategy is called Zubrat, and this involves both Zulong and Umbrat on the same team. And while both Loomians by themselves are pretty strong, having them together makes them amazing. Before we talk about why Zubrat works as an offensive team, I want to give context to all of these Loomians and why they need to be used in this specific way in order to be successful. So let's head straight into this. Let's first talk about Zulong. Zulong is probably one of the most iconic Loomians in the entire game. It's an electric/ancient type starter that is probably the most common Loomian in Loomian Legacy PvP. Throughout the years, Zulong has always been a threat, and if you look at its base stats, you can see why. It's a glass cannon Loomian with a crazy fast speed stat of 119, not to mention that it also has a ranged attack stat of 109, and an ability that increases its damage even more. These stats by themselves already make Zulong a great late game cleaner, but it also has an amazing move pool. It has moves like Thunder Strike and Elemental Burst for damage, Zip Zap and Ancient Roar for momentum and pivot, and even coverage options like Fire Breath for Tyrex and Lashent, and Chili Chomp for Loomians like Gargolem and Plasma. Zulong can pretty much hit any Loomian in the entire game, and if you don't have any Loomian that can switch into Zulong, your team will get destroyed by it, and it is that strong. In fact, if you look at the top 12 usage in Ieat's most recent tournament, it can hit 10 out of the 12 Loomians for super effective damage. And not to mention that Zulong can also run Awakening or Brute Force, which are abilities that increase Zulong's strength even more. Zulong sounds like an unstoppable Loomian. There are strategies that can beat Zulong, like Bane of Haze, bartering at Heavy Shackles, or using ranged bulky Loomians like Venilin or Metatoad. But for the most part, there aren't many ways to defeat Zulong. One of the biggest reasons why Zulong is so hard to beat is because of its very difficult to revenge kill. It has a speed stat of 119, which is the 6th highest speed stat in the game. But since it has totemized stats, it can even outspeed Loomians like Protogon. And with specialty boots, it can even outspeed Gargolem's speed by a country mile. If you use the goggles, there aren't many Loomians that can effectively swap into Zulong. Except for one Loomian. There has always been one Loomian that can effectively beat Zulong 100% of the time, and that Loomian is Eleguana. Eleguana is the ultimate Zulong counter. Unlike other Loomians that can get hit by Zulong's coverage moves super effectively, or range tanks like Venilin/Plasmoth eventually getting taken down over time, Eleguana does not have that issue. Eleguana is a great Loomian that is an electric/light type. This means it resists both its electric and ancient stab. Even better, it also resists fire breath coverage and neutral to chili chop. Eleguana also has really good bulk, with an base stat of 80 in the health, 85 in the melee defense, and 115 in the range defense, effectively walling Zulong from sweeping teams in the late game. Eleguana's ability, Lightning Rod, makes it so Eleguana is immune to Zip Zap, making it an amazing electric sponge for teammates like Stratosaur. Even if Zulong wasn't this powerful, Eleguana is still a great Loomian, effectively also being a counter for Ikazune and Landtorch as well. Its bulk is so good, it can even face Goggles, Dartburst, Protogon, and Soulburst Stratosaur's Airstrike after a Magnify. Eleguana also has moves that makes it great as well. It has a healing move in Rejuvenate, pivot moves like Zip Zap and Flash and Flee, hazard removal like Mudslide, setup moves like Energize, support moves like Tase, and even Gamma Pulse to hit, which is a spread move for doubles. Eleguana is also a very common Loomian, being used on 15% of teams in one of Ieat's tournaments, and it's also one of the top range tanks up there. Since it's so common, Zulong has always struggled to deal with Eleguana. It does so badly versus Eleguana that even just having an Eleguana on your team could threaten someone to not bring Zulong in battle. But despite everything Eleguana can do versus Zulong, Zulong has one move that it does well versus Eleguana. That move is Ancient Roar. Ancient Roar is an ancient type move that lowers the opposing Loomian's attack stats while also switching Zulong off the field. This is great for a Loomian with a fast speed stat, meaning it will always get the Ancient Roar off. And Ancient Roar isn't blocked by Eleguana, meaning you could switch something in to deal with Eleguana. But players aren't stupid. They know that if they lose their Eleguana, Zulong will basically clean the game. So they will often switch out on a supposed counter in order to save that Eleguana for a Zulong matchup later in the game. Which leads to the second Loomian that makes that strategy work. Umbraat. Umbraat is a pure dark type Loomian that hits extremely hard. But if you look at its base stats, it doesn't look too terrifying. Its speed stat is relatively low at 71, its bulk is not the greatest, and while 106 melee attack is good, it's not amazing. But Umbraat isn't good because of its base stats, it's good because of its ability, Overshadow. It's an ability that changes Umbraat's typeless type moves to dark type attacks, meaning moves like Raging Howl and Quick Pounce now becomes dark type. Even better, Overshadow even buffs the strength of those moves as well, making Umbraat hit even harder. And while having 120 power stab and priority move doesn't sound like the end of the world, it's another move that makes Umbraat insane. And that move is Chase Down. Chase Down is a 40 power move that doubles in power when the opposing Loomian switches out. Chase Down was originally a dark type move, which made Loomians like Yersoul overpower in the past, but ever since Chase Down got nerfed to be a typeless type move, not many Loomians have ran the move. There have been Loomians like Ganderville or Ragoon that runs it in support to steal items away, but none of those Loomians run Chase Down as effectively as Umbraat. Remember when I said that Overshadow turns all of your typeless type moves into a dark type move? Well, this turns Chase Down into a dark type move instead, effectively trapping Loomians that are weak to dark. Some of these Loomians that are weak to dark include Whippledrift, Luminami, Gasstroke, Baneki, and Eleguana. Yep, that's what makes Zubrat so good. You can effectively lead Zulong early and click Ancient Roar on the incoming Eleguana, and if Eleguana comes in, you pivot out and trap that Eleguana with Umbraat. With the Specialty Gloves item, Umbraat can hit even harder now, making Chase Down Oko Eleguana if it switches out. But what happens if Eleguana stays into an Umbraat? I mean, it can hit Umbraat super effectively with Flash and Flee. Right? Wrong! Remember how I said that Umbraat has a slow speed stat of 71? This is usually a bad thing for an offensive Loomian, but Eleguana is naturally faster with a speed stat of 80, meaning that Eleguana is faster than Umbraat. People have started to run sluggish on their Umbraats to ultimately get that Oko on Eleguana. Because yes, Chase Down even works with Flash and Flay. If you outspeed the Eleguana, your Chase Down is still a whopping 40 power, and Eleguana can pivot out scot-free. But if you're slower than the Eleguana, Eleguana flashes and flees first, meaning that it takes double damage from Chase Down and ultimately getting the KO with that Umbraat, KOing your opponent's chances of defeating the Zulong later in the game. This works even better when you consider the fact that Ancient Roar from Zulong weakens Eleguana's Flash and Flee by a significant margin, meaning you can actually live multiple Flash and Flees on Umbraat, and since Umbraats aren't running many speed nowadays, they usually put more TPs into their health or range bulk, making them live those hits even better. Umbraat can even run a fourth move called Fade Away, which is a pivot option for Loomians like Yearsnack and Dusket who take quad effective damage from Fade Away. Even if your opponent doesn't have an Eleguana, Umbraat can still trap Loomians that are weak to it, not to mention that it is an absolute wall breaker with that 120 power stab. While this Umbraat set has been used a bit in the past, especially when combined with Radiant Forecast Valkyrie, Zulong was ultimately benefited the most from Umbraat, because once Eleguana is out of the picture, Zulong often runs wild, clicking Zip Zaps, Ancient Roars, and other moves that completely cleans up the opposing teams. The player that have used Zubrat in Ieat's tournament, named Sumatra was her 3, used this strategy with bulky Loomians, like Sober Celesting, Yearsnack with Baffle, Mutagon, and Parasol, who both have great bulk, and ironically, Eleguana. 4 of their other 5 team members have also some sort of pivot that ultimately gives Zubrat more chances to do a lot of damage. And that is what ultimately won them the tournament. With everything I am saying, is there any great way to potentially slow down / defeat Zubrat? Well, a lot of the top Loomians used in Ieat's tournament don't fare well versus Zubrat. There are a few Loomians that can soak hits from both Zulong and Umbrat. Solber's Hagenosh is great bulk on both sides, and it can increase its melee defense with Fiery Fondit. Plasmoth can soak hits from non-Chili Chomp Zulongs and resist Umbraat. Boreal can do very well versus both of them. And while Lightspeed Ray isn't common, it can be used on Celestine and Borealis to do a good chunk to both. Most bug types can also handle both of them pretty well. Hazards could also chip Zubrat down over time, and Loomians with Terrifying and Petrifying can both slow them down. While there isn't much counterplay, players will ultimately find ways to deal with Zubrat, and now that more people know about Zubrat, people will know how to play against it. Personally, I feel like Eleguana's usage will drop and Plasmoth's usage will rise, because Plasmoth can ultimately deal with both Umbraat and Zulong, but this doesn't mean that Zubrat will ultimately die. If Zulong keeps Ancient Roar and if Umbraat keeps Dark-type Chase down, they will always remain as a meta threat, and let's be honest, they're going to adapt to the metagame as well, like Chili Chomp on Zulong to deal with Plasmoth, or Restrictive Shield on Umbraat to soak Flash and Flaze even better. Whatever happens in Ieat's next tournament, I feel like Zubrat will always be a meta threat in the Loomian Legacy metagame. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. What are y'all thoughts about Zubrat? Do y'all think it's good? Do y'all think it's bad? Please tell me in the comments below. That's the end of the video, and I will see y'all all later. Bye-bye!